Hello and welcome to the segmentation tutorial on Localize. In this video, we're going to cover the following topics: how segmentation works, how to enable and get started with segmentation, segmentation specifics and common scenarios. Segmentation splits translations into smaller, relevant chunks. It makes translators more efficient, translation memory richer, and the experience better when localizing longer texts. How does it work? Basically, Localize is able to automatically split translation-related text into smaller chunks using rules based on the code elements and features of the particular language, like a full stop. You can also perform this process manually by taking any long text under a translation key, splitting it into multiple smaller segments, and translating them separately. The key will be considered fully translated when all its segments in all languages are translated. Upon export, these segments will be automatically combined into a single translation string. To get started with segmentation, you'll have to create a new project with Software Localization type. Please note that currently this feature is not supported for the Documents type. Once segmentation is enabled, it cannot be disabled later. Also, it cannot be enabled for non-segmented projects. You can only create a new project and make it initially segmented. Next, you can upload your translation files as usual. The text under each translation key will be segmented automatically. Segmentation has two main components: language-based segmentation. The text is split based on the language rules. This type works on all content. Code-based segmentation. This type works only for HTML content. In this case, we perform segmentation using HTML block-level tags, like pdivul and others. Let's try to create a new translation key with HTML content. Whenever you create new translation keys in your project with segmentation enabled, their translations will be segmented automatically. In this case, we have 5 block tags, namely article, P, section, UL, and LI. These block tags will act as delimiters, and the text will be separated accordingly. Also, there are 2 inline tags, strong and A. These inline tags will be left intact and won't be utilized during segmentation. As you can see, all the inline tags are present in the segments, whereas all the block tags were stripped out. However, this does not mean that the block tags are lost. No, they are simply hidden in the project editor. When you go to export your translation keys, all block tags and any white spaces between them will be restored automatically. There are some specifics that you should be aware of. When you edit the base language translation for a segment, all the corresponding segments in the target language will become unverified. Note what happens to the status of the first segment for the French translation. You can create tasks for translation keys only, not for individual segments. You cannot include or exclude specific segments in or from a task. All segments will always be included in the task. Translation orders can be created for translation keys only. You cannot add individual segments to the order. Each segment is saved to the translation memory separately. Each segment has its own translation history. However, each segment also shows the entire translation history before it was segmented. This happens after the initial segmentation. You can switch between the segment and key history using the segment history switch in the history pane. You cannot enable branching for a segmented project. Also, you cannot enable segmentation for a project that has branching enabled. Please find detailed information on segmentation specifics in our docs. Next, let's see how you can split and merge your text manually. First of all, it's important to mention that you can perform manual split and merge only on the base language. In other words, only the base language can change the segment count, while other languages will comply with the existing segment count. Please note that this operation can be done only in the multilingual view, and the user must be a contributor for the base language. To split text into 2 segments, click on your translation to edit it. Place your cursor at the position where you would like to perform the split operation, and click. Then simply press the split button. You can also merge 2 segments. To achieve this, start editing one of the segments and click the Merge button. The currently chosen segment will be merged with the one above it. This means that you cannot perform the merge operation on the topmost segment. Finally, you can perform a mass split on the base language. To achieve this, choose the keys that you would like to split and choose Split into Segments from the Bulk Actions dropdown. Now it's time to download our translations back. Please note that translation filters work as a group of all segments for a specific key. For example, if you choose to export only the translated strings, then all segments must be translated to be included in the export. If one of the segments is not translated, the whole translation key will be ignored. The same logic applies to other filters. Also, if you choose to replace empty translations with the base language value, the whole translation will be replaced, not the individual segments. Finally, sorting does not affect segment order. For example, if you choose to sort by last updated, the sorting will take the most recently updated segments into consideration and sort the keys accordingly. However, the segment order won't be changed. Once you are ready, click Download or Preview. You'll see that upon exporting, the segments will be automatically merged into a single translation key. Great! Segmentation is a fairly complex feature, and it has certain edge cases. Therefore, let's discuss a few scenarios that you may encounter when updating segmented content. Remember that the number of segments can be changed for the base language only, and the other languages comply with existing segment count. It may happen that upon importing, the target language contains more or fewer segments than the base language. If the target language has fewer segments, then the last segments for this language will become empty. If there are more, the last segments will automatically be merged into a single one. When you append a new segment for the base language, the target languages will also have a new empty segment appended. Now let's discuss a more complex scenario. Suppose we have an English translation file in the YAML format. For instance, this one. In this file, we have a single key with some block and inline tags. We upload this file to our project and the text gets segmented properly. I'll also provide some French translations. Next, imagine we are updating our YAML translation file and adding a new div tag with a special offer to the very beginning. We upload this translation file again and check the Update Modified Translations Upload option. Here's what happens after this import. As you can see, the segments were shifted and became misaligned. Specifically, the second segment in English now corresponds to the first segment in French. Something very similar will happen if you try to add new segments to the middle or remove segments. Your segments will become misaligned again. So be very careful when importing your files and adding or removing segments. To overcome this problem, we recommend using automations. Set up a new rule for your segmented project. Specifically, choose your base language to be monitored, and then one or more target languages. Then adjust the minimal change required. Set it to 0 to fire every time, and choose Clear Translation Action. Additionally, you can also clear statuses. Next, create another rule, choosing your base language as the target and French as the monitored one. Choose Apply Translation Memory as the action. Also, make sure to tick Force this action, because otherwise the action won't be applied to the translations that are not empty. Now, whenever a change is made, this rule will automatically update all the affected segments and apply a translation memory to them. This way, your segments will be aligned properly. Don't forget to check the Enable Automations option when uploading your translation files to trigger this rule. And this concludes our tutorial. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any further questions, and stay with Localize.